have any Star Wars fans in the audience? Yeah? All right. Tell you what, if you're a Star Wars fan, would you stand up for me? And if you're a Star Trek fan, would you stand up for me? And if you're in the room, would you stand up for me? That'd be awesome. Thank you. And please join me in welcoming our next presenters, Anne and Anthony.
Hi. Everybody hear me okay? All right, great. The mic's working. Perfect. So I know what you're all thinking. Securing the Death Star in your pocket. But no, it's not a magic trick. We did not actually slip something into your pocket. But you do every day. Your mobile device. I'm Ann Dalton. I'm a security engineer with Blackstone Federal. Go Blackstone. You might notice us with our shiny little lights. And I graduated from Virginia Tech with a degree in psychology. That's right, go Hokies! But shortly after I discovered I'm actually pretty nerdy, so I came to the dark side and became a software engineer. I'm also a professional student. Right now I'm pursuing my master's in IT with concentrations in software engineering and cybersecurity. And I'm the lead on the project we'll be talking to you a little bit about today, and I'm really excited to share some of my knowledge and experience with all of you.
And I'm Anthony Glynn. I'm the architect of the project that we'll be telling you a little bit about today. I've been building web apps and securing all kinds of apps for the last 7 years at Blackstone Federal. In my spare time, I'm the tech lead on a nonprofit trying to end homelessness in DC. We leverage web and mobile technologies. It's called Hope One Source. It's an all-volunteer team, so if you're interested in getting involved, please reach out.
So show of hands here. How many of you guys use mobile apps? Most people. I assume a lot of you are probably using them right now. Proving my point. All of these people that just raised their hand, these people are a threat to your security. ComScore's 2016 mobile app report says that we spend about 2/3 of our digital media time on a mobile device. 58% of that is on a mobile app. Guys, that's just a little over 5 hours a day we're averaging on mobile apps. That's a lot of time. What if these apps had access to your corporate data? Cell phones are the best surveillance device out there for attackers. Think about this for just a second. You use your mobile device to store and transmit sensitive data, like your banking information, who's got their bank app on their phone. Right. These devices are easily lost and stolen. We typically have weak authentication. What if your smartphone fell into the hands of an adversary? Are you comfortable with that? Let me give you an example of how risky this mobile landscape is. So, session hijacking. Who's heard of session hijacking? Okay, that's actually a pretty decent show of hands. Good job, guys. So, for those of you who haven't, session hijacking is kind of like, it's a typical Monday morning, and you stumble into the Starbucks, you're waiting for your morning latte, and you decide, hey, I'm gonna check some email, maybe look at my Facebook, browse the internet for a bit, whatever it is. But not all of us got grandfathered into that unlimited data plan. Thanks a lot, Verizon. So you connect to the Starbucks Wi-Fi. You get your latte, you leave, you don't think twice about it. And then later that day, you get this really weird text message from a friend. Hey, did you create a new Facebook account? Because I just got a really weird new friend request from you. LOL. That's right. You just got jacked. Session hijacking is when an identity thief spies on your internet session. You don't have to be on a laptop for this anymore. This is mobile, everywhere you go. How many of you played, or maybe you still play, Pokemon Go? Surprisingly low number. What's wrong with you people? Well, this app actually outpaced Tinder and Twitter last year as the most downloaded app. So your friends are telling you about this great game, and you can't wait to play it too. So you download the app, you go through this installation process, and you accept all these random permissions. Sure, whatever I have to do, just let me play this game. Let's see what you just gave that app permission to do. So, accesses your GPS and network location. Who is tracking you? Do you have any idea where any of this information is going? Full network access, access to your billing information, receives data from the internet? What does that even mean? What are these people doing with your information? The government was actually so concerned about this app, they wrote an unclassified document to hand out to employees, telling them how they can play this game safely, including don't go alone and turn off your Wi-Fi. That's incredible. Let me give you another example. Who's heard of ransomware? It's been in the news a lot lately, right? So ransomware is an attack that's designed to lock a user out of a specific account until some sum of money is paid. According to Symantec's 2017 Internet Security Threat Report, about 64% of Americans give into digital extortion. According to Barclay, about 52% of the organizations surveyed said that even though they'd experienced a cyber attack in 2016, they were going to make no security changes going into 2017. That's actually higher. That's about 57% for ransomware. Think about this for just 1 second. Let's pull out one example. Who's heard of WannaCry? That was a really big one back in May. So WannaCry affected about 230,000 computers in over 150 countries in 1 day. That's a lot. So taking one example from there, what if the National Health Services in the UK said they were going to make no security changes? Here's all this patient data. It's already been exploited. Here's how you can have it too. You think that would be a great idea? That sounds horrifying. So this is risky. Cybersecurity is scary. What do you do about this?
The solution to the problems Anne's been talking about is the system we built. The system we built has transformed the way several federal agencies build and deploy mobile apps. We use the best tools available in order to provide security insights to federal teams so they can make security determinations on the apps. For teams that are building apps, we encourage them to scan early and often so they could remediate issues early, build security in. And in doing so, we take on some of the spirit of Agile in that we're empowering the teams, and in that regard, we're empowering them to make security determinations with their security officers to make sure that their apps are secure. If teams are leveraging third-party apps, which is very common, we're not only helping them to determine if the app is secure and if the app is respecting privacy, but also if the app is malicious. We've helped dozens of teams by providing them security reports and helping them to interpret the results. Users log into our system, submit the app, and view the results. We heavily leverage an open source system called AppVet. It was developed by NIST 7 years ago for DARPA. We worked with NIST in order to adapt it for our customers' needs. And a lot of those improvements have also been released back into the open source project. The front end is simple and the back end is powerful. Let's start with the front end. In the top left, you could see the name of the system. You could see the main user menu where you could manage your own account or other people's accounts. But below that is the main part. You can see this table, and you can see that 4 apps have been scanned. You see the scan ID, the application icon, the application name, who uploaded it and when, and most importantly, you could see a high-level security risk rating. This risk rating is a high-level watermark. And what that means is that if any of the individual scan reports comes back with a high, then the overall risk rating is a high. You could upload your app using those buttons above the table. You could search through your history with the search bar at the top. But on the right is where you're going to get most of your value. You see metadata on the app that you've submitted. You can see what version of the operating system it's compatible with. Below that, you can see your security reports. You can click on the name of the tool to find out more about how the tool works and what their criteria is for their risk rating. And on the right, you could select the results in order to see what the issues are within your app. The back end is really where a lot of the value is, as I mentioned. The back end is a framework for automating your security scans and unifying the results. As far as unifying the results, as you see, you've got pass, warning, and fail. High, moderate, or low. Every app comes back with those, and it's really critical for your immediate understanding of how much work needs to be done within the app. As far as automation, it's powerful and it's easy to automate new tools. We've automated static and dynamic tools. Static being where you have your app files and it can be searched through for critical information very quickly. And dynamic scans is when you run an app either within an emulator or an actual device, and it gives you a lot deeper security results, but it's slower. We've automated both of those. We've got 8 tools in our system, most of which are automated. And it unifies the results using the high, moderate, or low. We don't actually normalize the results because most of the security tools out there that have existed aren't mapping to a standard. More and more are. We're working with vendors to get more and more of them on board, mapping to security standards such as NIAP protection profile. And once they're there, we'll be able to normalize the results. It's easy to automate tools in our system. You could automate external scans, such as using a SaaS technology. You could send off the app, grab the results back. Or you could grab a piece of software online, automate it within your environment to automate the command being run. Just a few days ago, we deployed a new tool to our environment, and it just took 1 week of actual effort in order to research it, integrate it, automate it, deploy it, and test it beforehand. And now, every time somebody uploads an iOS application to our system, they get security results back within seconds for their iOS application. So not everything can be automated nowadays. You have some manual, in-depth analysis that needs to be done. Ann and I run a lot of that. And so it also supports manually uploading your results. These automated and in-depth reports means that development teams can focus on development, knowing that when they desire security results, they submit their app here, and they will quickly have results they could work on. This also improves the visibility across your team. Different team members, such as a product owner, project manager, developers, or security officers, can all see the results within your team. And this can change the security process within your team, the culture, or at the very least, it could improve communication. Imagine this. Your application developer does a build, uploads it here, sees the issues, fixes the issues, and then when it's a clean scan, submits that to the security officer, saying, hey, can I deploy to production? It's clean. Security officer verifies it and says, yeah, you're good. This is pretty dramatically different compared to in the past when you might have a development team requesting a scan of your source code, and then the security officer looks it up, pulls it down, does a scan, etc. It could save a lot of time on both sides, and it could empower the developers to do more. We've worked with many working groups and users to make sure that our system is streamlined for their needs. And it can't just help with application development, but also application vetting. Imagine if you have locked down devices within your organization, such as kiosks or something. You can have the people managing those kiosks submit a request, the app comes in here, and if all the risk ratings are low, you could potentially have a policy saying it could go to your internal app store where they could use it. Many organizations struggle with mobile technology because it's spread rapidly over the last 10 years. It's complex, and as far as organizations are concerned, it's not mature. It's widespread, we know that. Ever since the first iPhone came out 10 years ago, it spread rapidly, and that's even more so with Android. 5 years ago, Android had 2% of the operating system market share. Now, they're the most popular operating system in the world. And 50% of people's time using technology is using mobile technology, more than both desktop and laptops combined. So mobile apps are critical to the organization, but are complex to develop, and you need to think about a lot of things. The first is you got 2 operating systems at least to develop towards generally, as compared to a web app where you have 1 operating system in your environment. By having 2 operating systems, you have different release cycles and slightly different functionality. You have different frameworks you could use and languages you could use to build your app. And some of those frameworks and languages don't even have enterprise security scanners available. With Apple specifically, they don't have virtualized environments for iOS and OS X, which makes it harder for application development teams to streamline the processes. They often need to manage those devices within the mobile app dev team. With the large organizations, this could mean the development is decentralized. Then if you add on the security technical challenges on top of that, you have a lot to be worried about. You have your historic desktop-like threats, such as where somebody downloads your app, tries to determine your endpoints in order to hack into and get into your network, or they download your app and reverse engineer it, either to steal your intellectual property or to release a malicious version online. You have new-ish threats, such as the massive influx of stolen or lost devices with your data on them. And you have more wireless security issues. It's harder to determine with the small screen of your phone what Wi-Fi is malicious or not, because you can't easily see a lot of the certificate information. And with different operating systems that you're deploying to, you have different security models that you need to take into account and different issues that you need to be tracking. So mobile apps are critically important to the organization. They're complicated to build, and you cannot rely on the device or the network in order to do it for you. We've incorporated all those issues into the systems we built, but it didn't happen overnight. We tried different approaches over the years and built relationships with various stakeholders. In 2013, this was just an idea. The idea was to move the security process into the application development lifecycle earlier on, so that you're not just doing security at the gate reviews. In 2014, we focused in on this problem that we could address, which is mobile application security. And we started trying out the different security scanners available to us. We deployed our first version of the system using the tools available. We had users pushing to Git repositories, and we had a build running for their system. We had our build then running it through security scanners and pushing the results back to Wiki so that they could view it. The open source tools back then and the case today are not very strong with regards to automated security scanning. In 2015 is when we moved away from source code into binary analysis. By running the builds earlier on, we had a lot more work to do in order to make sure the builds are running correctly and not broken, and if they did break and we didn't realize it, it could affect the security results. Teams were also more comfortable with giving us their binaries rather than their source code because source code is more sensitive. And also most of the technology, the security technology coming out over the last 5 years regarding mobile apps has been on the binary side, not the source code side. We bought a very enterprise great tool in 2015, and we helped with other agencies develop some cutting edge mobile security technology. So users are starting to get very valuable results. And instead of using the wiki to give us their apps, we've allowed any method at this point for them to get it to us so that it's easy and quick for them to get us their apps and get results back. In 2016, we deployed the interface that you saw an example of earlier. This means a central place they can go to upload their app, see the history of scans. And our long-term relationships have started to pay off. We had a stakeholder who we were engaging for years, and they were involved in the overarching security process for the organization. And every mobile app that was going to be published from then on had to go through our system. So we had a lot more users coming to our system at that point. We improved our marketing so that more teams were aware of what we provided and the value it could provide for their teams. And we streamlined onboarding so that they could more quickly get value from our system. We're not done developing. We still are trying new things and partnering with new teams and expanding our services.
So all of that sounds great, right? We had this cool idea. We built this pretty nifty service. But again, I know what you're all thinking. No, I'm not a mind reader. How do I know that this is valuable? How do I know that a service like this is marketable to the community? Again, this didn't happen overnight. Anthony showed you kind of that iterative success that we've had, but starting from that idea in 2013, and once we launched in 2014, as you can see, we have increased the number of apps that we scan, the number of agencies that we support, and the number of tools that we use every year. 2016 was a big milestone year. This is when we finally got our act together. We got involved in our community, we narrowed our scope, we got a vision, and you can see we had significant growth in 2016. This year, 2017, this is another really big milestone for us. So just this year, we've scanned over 250 apps. Honestly, that number is really more like 300 by this point. And we're seeing an increase, an average increase of about 30% per month and the number of scan requests we receive. We've added about 5 different agencies this year, all by referral. That means people love our service so much, they're going to their colleagues, they're going to other agencies, and they're telling them, you guys got to get this. And they're coming. Now, some of you might be a little like me, and you're really OCD. You're looking at the screen, and you're going, wait a second, Ann. You said you increased everything. But that purple box looks a little smaller for number of tools in 2017 than it did in 2016. What's up? So, it's a cliche, but it's true. Quality over quantity, every time. We had a lot of scanning tools, but a lot of scanning tools provided little value. Each scanning tool did something different, but nobody provided a robust report that developers could look at and understand and see how they could make those changes to make their app more secure. So we got picky, and now we work with the best tools in the industry. We're always looking for something new, but we have a specific goal in mind. Now your tool has to meet a set of requirements. So you might also be wondering, cool, that's great. So glad it works for you, but how do I know that this would work for me? Or what's that vision? How do I decide whether this is important for my company? So imagine with me. Let's get creative. We are now all mobile security engineers. And we work for a large organization. And we have been tasked to build out some kind of service so that we have some visibility into our mobile security infrastructure. Now, budgets are tight. So we're a BYOD shop. I'm not talking about donuts. I'm talking about devices. Bring your own devices. You've seen a lot of information up here. We talked about how scary security gets. So how many of you in the room think BYOD sounds like fun? Wow, I'm surprised I actually saw some hands. So some of you should be getting a little woke right now. How do you do this? How do you bring this service to your company and protect yourself and your agency? Most importantly, do your research. Look at the market. Talk to other mobile security engineers who are in the same industry as you. Find out what their successes are. Find out what their challenges are. Talk to your security officers. Find out what the gaps are in your agency and how you can help fill some of those gaps. Get involved in the community. Go to conferences, DevOps Days DC, guys. Meet with vendors. Talk to them about what their services are, where they're going with these services, how you can leverage some of these to make your service better. Meet with potential users. Ask them what their gaps are. How can you fill those gaps for them? How can you provide that service they need? Set a strategy. Have a vision. This is important. Create a roadmap that can show some incremental progress so that you're setting the stage to achieve that major vision. And manage your scope. Now, this sounds like it's something that you should already know how to do, but you'd be surprised how often people go overselling their product. We've all been there. We've all had this amazing idea, and we cannot wait to tell everybody. We want our friends to know, we want our families to know, we want our peers to know, we want you to know. We're doing this cool thing. Here's what you can do with it. Here's how you're going to use it. We're going to bring you all these services. And then they start using it, and they go, wait a second. This doesn't do half of the things you told me it would do. Remember that incremental success? We kind of forgot that step, didn't we? But that's how you grow your user base. If users know exactly what you're offering and exactly how they can implement it, then they know how to build your service into their product, and they're going to stick with you for the long haul. Some of you may not be in a position to do that. Maybe you don't have that kind of influence with your company, or maybe you're just a BYOD shop and your company just doesn't really have the infrastructure for this. So how do you protect yourself and maybe by proxy your organization? Great question, guys. Few things you can do. Install from valid sources. And I can mean this one of two ways. There's a lot of app stores out there, and not all of them are legitimate. Pay attention to where you're going to download your apps. Google Play Store, the iTunes Store, maybe your company has an internal app store. Those are fine, but if it looks a little fishy, don't use it. look for the developers. We talked about Pokemon Go earlier. There's a lot of malicious versions of Pokemon Go out there, even on trusted app stores. Check the developer. Make sure you're getting the app that you intend to be downloading. Secure authentication. Y'all, we are lazy. We want that 4-digit PIN, log me into my phone, don't ever lock the screen again because that's just too much work. But this is really insecure. We need biometric sensors. Even these are vulnerable, but they're much better than the 4-digit PIN. Long, complex passwords to protect your sensitive data, like that bank account we were talking about earlier. Consider a password manager for some of these. It's a lot to remember if we're telling you to use a long, complicated password, but these can help make it a little easier. Set a timeout for your lock screen. You don't want your phone on for 3 hours. That's going to make it really easy for an adversary to pick up your phone and log right in. You want to make this complicated. They need to be quick to get your phone and log in. Be careful what Wi-Fi you connect to. We talked about this earlier with session hijacking, but pay attention. Places like hotels, airports, coffee shops, conferences, random places throughout the city that have free public Wi-Fi. Pay attention to these networks and only connect to networks that you trust. Limit the permissions on your phone. Or at least limit the permission to the, understand the permissions that you're giving applications. So if a flashlight app asks to record audio and video, does that sound a little funny to any of you? Think about the app's core functionality. Do these permissions align with that functionality? If they do, okay. If not, maybe think about another app. Be aware of ads. So ads can send a lot of data on the back end, and your operating system doesn't always do a great job of protecting you. So if you're installing an app with a lot of ads in it, do you really know what information's leaving your device? Or who's intercepting it? Or where it's being stored? Continuous monitoring apps. So I know that these aren't a silver bullet. They're not the end-all, be-all. They're not going to find every piece of malware that could be on your device. But this is a great place to start. Installing a continuous monitoring app can give you kind of a quick overview of what's on your device. And I'll leave you with this one, juice jacking. Has anybody here heard of juice jacking? Anybody go to DEF CON? Okay. A few years ago at DEF CON, they presented on this concept. And basically, juice jacking, you walk into an airport and you see the public charging station and you think, great, I've got my USB cord right here. I'll charge my device before I get on this plane and then I'll play around whatever it is, Sudoku, I don't know what you play, on the plane. So what DEF CON presented is there can actually be software running behind those USB charging stations. People can make copies of your device. They can make copies of all the information on your device. You might get on the plane and somebody's stolen your identity and you have no clue. That's pretty scary. So what can you do to protect yourself there? Bring your own chargers. Don't use USB charging stations. And finally, if we've said anything today that resonates with you, or if you're just really passionate about cybersecurity, talk to us. Reach out. We're super nerdy. We love to share information with the community, and we'd love to hear from any of you. Thanks.